Today we are going to be talking about quantitative, qualitative, and mixed methods. We want to see what is qualitative study, what is quantitative, and we want to see what they are and their interrelationship of those concepts. And the essence of all of this is for us to see how we can master our research appropriately. All right, so yes, we want to look at all of this. The essence for you to be able to know or to identify how to carry out your research. Last week we talked about the theories behind all of that, how to identify the way your research is going to go relating to the theories and the paradigms. You know, which one will be in line with what you're already thinking that you want to work on. So, but today we want to also see the methodology, the research design that will be most appropriate for your work, what they are, and how to go about it. In other lectures, we're going to be looking at the nitty-gritty of how to get all of these things done, even going into the analysis of the quantitative and the quantitative, as well as the mixed method. We're going to see the all of that. But it is important for us to see what they are really as we go, and how we can navigate them through the methods. So, really, quantitative research focuses on numerical data, statistical analysis, objective measurements, and this is ideal for identifying patterns, to test hypotheses, and to generalize findings across large populations. You know, like I said, it's quantitative research will concern itself about the quantity, which will can coin as numbers. We want to know how many people are involved in I don't want to use negative word. I don't want to use how many people are involved in car crash. How many people are involved in winning the scholarship or in winning the grants, or how many people participated in a particular in a game, things like that. You know, quantitative methods bothers itself about numbers, much more about numbers, also about the measures or measurements. How do we measure the count? How do we measure the variables we want to use in the research? Is we want to know because there is a need for you to take, for example, now that when you are saying somebody is overspeeding, I used to overspeed. What do you mean by overspeeding? What is is it overspeeding by what? Now, that overspeeding now, you agree with me that is talking about a driver that is driving a vehicle or a rider that is riding a motorbike. Now, when you are talking about that, you are looking at the speed which is being measured by a particular thing. And speed is usually measured by what? Type it in the chat box. I've muted everyone. But put it in the chat box. Speed is measured by what? How do we measure speed? What are the measures of speed? Yes, I know a good number of you are not in the sciences, but then it's not enough. We talk about over speeding, you drive cars, you have your vehicles and all of that. Thank you. The speedometer is a device that is being used to measure the speed. But the speedometer is also measuring the speed based on a particular thing. Dr. Bakari, that's excellent. Thank you so much. It is measured in kilometer per hour. It can also come down to meter per second. So speed is measured by kilometer per hour. So that kilometer per hour is the measure of the speed. Same goes for um, anything whatsoever you want to measure in your research. Take, for example, you want to measure the temperature of the rabbits, if that is what you're working on, or you want to measure the temperature of the patients you are talking with. Maybe you are dealing with people that are falling sick and things like that, and then you want to measure their temperature. Or let's use an example in English. I know in English you have a laboratory. I don't know what you call that laboratory. Language lab. Yes, I've been there. I saw it. I was impressed. In this university, I saw that language lab. So Maybe you want to bring in some people to use the machine in the language lab, and you want to check something about them. Maybe you want to know how many males, how many females are involved in that research, and you want to also know their age bracket. You want to know their age. So as you want to measure their age, then how do you measure age? Age is not measured by height. Age is measured in years. So the variable we are talking about here is the age. The measurement there, or the measure, is years. So that is what that is talking about. So what I'm talking about here is quantitative methods itself focuses mainly on numerical data. And numerical data, it also focuses on measurable variables that can be measured, and how to also determine relationships among them. And it also permits us, or give us the opportunity to also compare groups among them. Then the essence of that is to be able to generalize findings to a larger population. Ordinarily, quantitative method cannot use the total population. When I say the total population, let's take, for example, that I want to conduct a research in Osun State. Maybe a research among diabetic patients, or a research among people that are involved in social menace, which are likely to be among those people that take drugs. Or let's say I want to carry out a research among the people that are called, there's a particular name given to these people, that the homeless, yes. If I want to carry out a research among the homeless, there's no way I can get to all the homeless in Ile-Ife, in Osogbo, in Ikirun, in Ilarangun, in Ilesha. So there'll be a need for me as a researcher to take representative sample among the population, among the total population. So that way, after I've used quantitative approach, and I've zeroed in on using my sample data to do my analysis, at the end of the day, I will come back to generalize the output of that research for the whole population. So those are some of the elements of quantitative methods. Quantitative methods will not use the entire population to conduct research. It will only use representative sample, and at the end of the day, the findings will thereafter be generalized for the same population. So some of the characteristics of these quantitative methods has to do with it uses numerical data, like I've said. Then it's also structured. There is usually an objective you want to achieve. That is a question you want to answer. And it will usually involve large samples. The larger the sample, the better for the output, the better for the analysis to be reliable, the better for the credibility and the reliability of that output. So, but most of the time we are usually constrained by a number of things. So we are usually constrained by maybe finance, because you don't have the researcher may not necessarily have funding to visit all the cities available in Osun State, like I've said, to look for the prospective participants. Then another constraint might be because there is no enough time to carry out the research. When you want to gather your data, you usually have a specific time when you want to carry out the data. It's just like when you are gathering the data, you're carrying out a research. You have a timeline for that research. A research does not have open-ended time to finish. A research will usually have a time to start and a time to finish, a time to bring it to an end, to a close. So the same goes for the data you want to collect. The data you want to collect will definitely have a space that you have allocated for it in your timeline, especially when you're doing your PhD research. So because of some of those constraints, we are limited. So you can't take the entire population to be used for quantitative analysis. So so that is that about that. And then the essence, let me also talk about the essence of us gathering data. Why do we need to gather data? We gather data because we want to, at the end of the day, you want to provide solutions to problems. You also want to possibly recommend solutions for a particular problem. You want to recommend suggestions, policy suggestions, maybe to government, steps they need to take regarding a particular thing, a particular menace that occurred somewhere, and you have carried out the research and you have seen the solution. So you want to tell the government what they need to do for the people, for the masses in the community, infrastructure they have to bring in place, and all of that. It is to be able to do all of this appropriately, to be able to do this correctly, as close to one as possible. What I mean by that is as close to perfection as possible. It's like you want to forecast. Now, you want your forecast to be as close to perfection as possible. Take, for example, that if you want to budget for Nigeria, the total budget you want to use for Nigeria next year, you cannot bring it from your head. People have to submit budget from different ministries, departments, agencies, sectors. And then they pull all of that together to be able to know what will be the total budget for Nigeria. There's usually a budget for security, budget for education, budget for finances, budget for so many things. Now, there are some of the things that will constitute the elements of those budgets, and that is what we're talking about. Now, for example, if you want to plan for secondary schools in Ile-Ife or in Osun State, you need to know the number of students that are in those schools, which should be gotten, or you can also get from the Ministry of Education. So there must be head counts of the number of students in the schools. That in Obande Grammar School, how many students in total do we have? Then the school should be able to also stratify in case they need further information regarding how many people do we have in GSS 1, GSS 2, up to SS3. So the essence of the quantitative of gathering this data is to be able to specifically know how much do we earmark for a particular. That's why you will see that in the budget of the states, we don't have equal amounts going to Osun State. It is not the amount that goes to Lagos State that is allocated to Osun, and it's not the same amount that Osun is getting that is also going to Kano State. And also Abia State also differs based on a number of criteria. They are not just bringing the figures from their head. So the data gather is what is going to be used to postulate, to create an hypothesis, to also say, oh, this is what we are like. This, if for example that we have taken a census now, and for the next 4 years, we may not have to repeat that census. In the next 10 years, we may not have to repeat that census. But then, you should be able to use what is the total census, the total population of Nigeria today, for you to be able to calculate what will be the total population in the next 4 years, in the next 10 years, in the next 20 years. So that way, the government can provide for the people. They'll be able to place side by side. Can we say the infrastructure that exists now will be sufficient for the same population we are expecting in the next 10 years? And that's why the government is failing in this country. In the last 20, 30 years, yes, we are still crying that we do not have enough electricity. But it is worse now than what we used to have in the 80s. In the 80s, you can have 18, 20 hours of electricity, but today is far away from 10 hours per day, depending on your location. But majority in anywhere in Nigeria, hardly will you get 12 hours of electricity. Hardly. I'm not saying if you're in the what do we call it? I'm talking about residentials in particular. But if you're in higher institutions are paying through their nose to ensure that they get constant electricity from the supply of constant electricity. So why do we have this? It's because the people that are supposed to pull the data correctly, they have not done the needful correctly as expected. You believe with me now that today we are talking about the total population of Nigeria. We put it at about most of the time about 230 million. But the last time we held census was 2006. So how then do we know? And then in 2006, the total population then was about 150 million. How then do we then postulate or calculate or forecast the current population? It is by the use of postulation, by the use of existing data. Then they now plug it into regression to forecast what the next 10 years, 20 years, 30 years will be. So that's the power of the quantitative methods. That's the power of the quantitative method. That's what it can do. And at the end of the day as well, you can also formulate what is referred to as hypothesis. As you formulate your hypothesis, you also need quantitative approach to test with your data to be able to say that, oh, fine, this is what we have postulated that, oh, women use computers more than men, or women use internet more than their male counterpart. That's the postulation. But then you need to go, you can even say undergraduates, that you can forecast that, you can have an hypothesis that undergraduate students in Obafemi University, they use social media, they spend most of their time on social media more than their male counterparts. That is just an assumption, which you can say is more or less like an hypothesis that you have formulated. But then for you to be able to make it a theory, for you to be able to confirm what you have hypothesized, you need to go to those undergraduate students and collect real data. As you collect that real data, you come back to do what to do, carry out the analysis. And then you can then place it side by side, what you have postulated, to see whether what you have seen in the field is actually true or not. So when it is not true, you reject that hypothesis. Where it is true, you accept that hypothesis. If you have stated your alternative hypothesis and your null hypothesis, then you can also place it side by side to see which one you're going to accept and which one you are going to reject. All of the nitty-gritty and the details of the quantitative analysis is going to be further demystified in this lecture, in this URM 902, as we go on, but not in this class today. Somebody else is going to come around to do that for us. So let's move to the qualitative methods. Qualitative methods also explore in-depth understanding, while quantitative deals with breadth. Qualitative methods is dealing with depth, meaning that it explores in-depth understanding of a particular concept, and it uses non-numerical data. Well, we may say it's non-numerical, but yes, most of the time, because we want people to narrate. We do all of this qualitative analysis by narration, by conducting interviews and possibly staying somewhere and be observing and making notes. So most of the time we do text analysis of the narrations we have gathered. So that we can see the narration we have gathered following the particular context we are working with. So the information gathering here, it is not numerical. Information that we gather here, it is more or less like through interviews. Let me give you an example. An example is, if you have billionaires and you are wondering how did they become millionaires? So is it not the same work, the same job that we're also doing? Now you want to know what has happened to those billionaires. What have they done differently? So you cannot just bring it from your head and say, to become a millionaire, you just have to set up a business. When you set up a business, you have to be selling to people and be making profits. More than 1 billion people, they have done that. Some have failed, but majority have not become billionaires because of that. So, but then you need to hear from the billionaires. What have you done differently? You want to hear from the billionaires about their lifestyle. How can you become a billionaire? How did you become a billionaire? So, in that context, you don't want to talk to millionaires. You don't want to talk to just ordinary business person who is just buying and selling 100,000 and all of that. No. But billionaires, how to become a billionaire? You now have to gather those billionaires to ask questions from them. Ordinarily, you know that the billionaires in the world, you cannot bring every one of them to the table all together. It may be difficult. Why? Because they will definitely be difficult to see. But just want to sample the opinion of a few of them. The best method, the best approach for that kind of research, it's qualitative. So once you go to about 10, 15, 20 of those people belonging to that particular group, you are good to go. That's what we call saturation in qualitative research. When we get there, we'll let you know. Saturation is the point at which Your respondents in qualitative study are almost repeating the same. When you ask them a question, they are repeating the same answer independently. So when it's getting to that, you already know that you are reaching saturation level when you have to stop recruiting more participants for the research. That is called saturation. So in that way, what you do in qualitative is to have in-depth study of a concept. You want to answer a question, you need in-depth study of that. And what you do by carrying that out is conduct interviews, and you can also do that by observation. Take for example now that when the university deployed the new transport system, the students, they were not ready for the change, and they were making us on social media here and there. We are having problem. Oh, we are queuing. We are on the queue. We have been here for 10 minutes. We have been here for 20 minutes. Wait a minute. What is the big deal in queuing for 10 minutes? Because if you have ever been to Lagos and you have used BRT, you will know that you have to be there for about 10-15 minutes before the next vehicle will be available to you. So normally, even if I did my master's in UK, and I mean, you can't get to the bus stop and get the bus immediately. If you are fortunate to have followed the timeline on the internet before you go to the bus stop, then you have followed that. But if you just go there arbitrarily without checking the next available bus will be in the next 15 minutes or even 20 minutes. So it's not a big deal. But then, if you want to really be sure whether what the students are saying are just rumors, or you want to really confirm whether the queuing time is more than 10 minutes, it's up to 20 minutes, or they are queuing up to Ede Road, you can go there to observe what is going on. So that's a form of also qualitative study. Rather than talking to each student about what has happened, you can also observe. Go there and take your records. Maybe between 7 a.m. and 8 p.m. 7 a.m. and 8 a.m. You want to do the research for 1 hour. You are looking at the number of people coming in, and as they get to the queue, the time that they get to the queue and the time that they exit the queue, you want to do the calculation and see how much time does it take one person, to remain in the queue before they are served by the bosses. So that's a form of observation. You can also have observation in your laboratories as well. I know majority of us are not in the sciences. The sciences, they issue to have laboratories where they keep their, especially in pharmacy, where they keep their rats, that they use for tests and all of that. That's a laboratory. You also have a laboratory also in English and your other department. I don't know whether you have the same in law. Where you can also carry out your observations. Maybe you have given a test in English, for example. Now, maybe you want your students you have deployed in the laboratory to decrypt a particular thing, maybe the phonetics in a particular video, maybe a 10 minutes video, and you want them to write what they can hear from what maybe that's you want what do you call it now? You want them to decrypt something from a particular video. Maybe it's English, for example. Some Nigerian students may not be able to hear what an English person is saying, an Igbo person is saying. But then you want to be able you set them up and you give them like 10-15 minutes to be able to write down whatever you are able to hear. So as you do that as a form of observation, you're also observing your students to see who is going to do it first and possibly do it better and decrypt it better than the others. That's a form of observation as well. So these are some of the things we do in qualitative study. Qualitative study, you use it only most of the time when you don't need many people to participate. You don't need too many respondents to participate. You only need a few. But as you do that, you are going to dig it deeper. Because take, for example, as you sit down somebody, a billionaire, like in the example I gave previously, as you sit them down, you also want to check with them. You want to ask so many questions. As you are asking one question, maybe leading to the other. So a single interview can take up to like 15 minutes or 20 minutes per person. At the end of the day, once you are done with one person, you go to the next person. You also have that as well. You keep that in a file. As you keep that in a file, you must have ordinarily taken the permission of the interviewee that, please, I like to tape record you when I'm carrying out this interview. Yes, no problem. You are free to do that. Once you get the consent, then you are good to go. So as you tape record that, when you get back and you want to begin to analyze your research, You have to decrypt that. You have to be able to transcribe that into text. As you transcribe that into text, you then have to analyze the text you have gathered. You have a particular file for the first person, you have another file for the second person, up to like 15 or 20 persons that you have interviewed. So all of those things are some of the things you are going to put together and to begin your analysis. The way to do all of this is going to be further expanded when we get there, when the right person that is going to be talking about this is handling you. So now let's look at the mixed method. The mixed method is the marriage between quantitative method and the qualitative method. There are researches that you only do with qualitative method that I've said. There are also researches that you also stand alone as quantitative method. But mixed method others itself with the marriage of the two, where you use in the same research both quantitative and qualitative within a single study. The essence of doing this is to be able to create a richer output, richer finding, to have more complete picture of that complex phenomenon. That way, it will give you more confidence that your research is fantastic and reliable, especially when there is synergy between what you find out in your qualitative and in your qualitative, the output of the two, especially when they are in agreement. Now, I have here that researchers tap into the strengths of each method while minimizing their individual weakness, resulting in findings that are both statistically robust and contextually meaningful. Now, if you look at the Venn diagram here, the one on the left is the quantitative data you have gathered for your research, which will do more of the breadth because you want to talk to many people, you want to gather data from many people. You are widening it using quantitative. But then you want to go deeper, depth per person to know more about that concept. And then you are talking to a few of those respondents to gather better information regarding that question you want to really find out. So that's why you're having both the depth and the breadth together. So this research, the mixed method research, is fortunate because you are bringing both the depth and the breadth together to be able to give you what we have in between here. The research in between, or the output here, is giving us comprehensive insights from the integration of the two methods. Yes, if I were you, I would go for this approach. But this approach is not bread and butter. It is not for the lazy. It is not for someone who is not ready for the business. And let me also tell you, one of the benefits of this research, of this mixed method, I'm still going to be expanding more on the merits and the merits, is that it gives you better opportunity among your peers, especially when there is competition. Take, for example, now that you are competing for a grant. You are competing for a grant, and you use mixed method approach in your methodology as you are writing it. And somebody wants to use just qualitative method, another wants to use quantitative method. Lo and behold, the first one that will first of all be given the priority is that wants to combine the two approaches. Because at the end of the day, it will give them the opportunity to compare the two results, whether there is synergy or there are differences among the findings. But then the essence of using mixed method is not that it should ordinarily or compulsorily give us positive results in terms of that the results should converge. Some of the time, the results may not converge. The findings from quantitative may not converge with qualitative for the same problem you want to solve. Yes, at that instance as well, you don't run away from the report. At that instance, you don't have to doctor the output. Because that may dovetail into what you are going to work on for life. What do I mean? That may dovetail into what you are going to be known for in that discipline for life. That, so person, Awole Yeto 2026, conducted a research on a particular thing and he used mixed method. Yes, he found the quantitative aspect of the mixed method, notice that so and so happened this way. And the corresponding qualitative method approach used to answer the same overarching research question set for that research noted something which is contradictory. And then to not justify the reasons based on the findings on the field. It will justify the findings because he has already talked to people in the qualitative to know why they are doing what. So from there, you'll be able to justify the reasons for the differences or for the similarities. And that's why if you're a researcher, and I always advise that if you are involved in the write-up of a research, you also have to be on the field. We're not saying that you should be alone on the field. We're not saying that you can go as a supervisor on the field. Because if you're on the field, by the time you're writing up, some of the things that you have observed, some of the things that you have seen, some of the people that your field assistants are also people they're talking to, you're also there to hear one or two things about what they're reporting. So that way it will be very easier for you to be able to write up appropriately. It will not be difficult. When I was on my PhD, there was no way I could cover 3 clusters together by myself because I visited the Otigba cluster in Lagos. I also visited the Port Harcourt, Ogunabali village, computer village in Port Harcourt. Then I also captured the GSM village, computer village also in Abuja. But then I could not visit Abuja. But I was at Lagos cluster. I was also at Ogunabali cluster. Yes, I also employed other people to work with me as well there. But I was in 2 of those 3 clusters I sampled. So same goes for you as a researcher. PhD research is the bedrock of quality research for future. Especially for those people in academics and those people that may want to work with NGO. Because the essence at the end of the day is for you to be able to carry out research and bring out policy suggestions and solutions. So once you get it right from here, then it's going to be a plus for you. I can tell you, it's going to be a plus for you. We have people from different places. We have had people from the banks that have come to this university to back PhD, and they went back to their private firm, and they're doing well in their private firm, especially when it has to do with them writing out, conducting research, because they also do that in the banks now. They have to conduct research. They have to write reports. Their report is better than what they used to do before they came for the PhD. So that's what we're talking about. So that is that about the mixed method. Now let's look at this. Mixed methods have been reported to have been widely used among postgraduate students, not only in developed countries, but also in Africa. And this was reported of findings by, postgraduate thesis in library and information science in Kenya. There was a particular document I saw that reported this. That about 53% of postgraduate students used mixed method. And then another advantage of mixed method is that your citation impact will be high. People tend to cite articles with mixed method than those with qualitative or standalone quantitative methods. It's just like when you conduct systematic review. People cite in a lifetime, you must ensure that you write one systematic review paper. You write one systematic review paper, go and check your citation 1 year after, you will know what you're going to get. Same thing also goes for mixed method. Because these are the metrics that we're already using currently, that even the global world are also using this to rate researchers. If you want to submit any proposal, the organizers of those proposals, those that want to grant you the grants, that want to offer the grants, the organization will profile you. They will check your presence online. They will check how many papers have you published. Then they will look at your area as well. Then they will look at your citation impact. How many Google Scholar presence do you have? What's your impact on Google Scholar? Your H index and all of that. They'll check that. Not just on Google Scholar. They also go to check from Scopus. Your Scopus records, they will check that. And let me quickly chip this in. This is a plus for you if you are just joining the academics. When we got to the academics, nobody told us to zero in on publishing top journal articles. But I think it's in your best interest. If you start with that, you will go places. Why am I saying that? Because you don't want to just be a local champion. You don't want to be a local champion. No, you are alone. Thank God that we have champions here and they are not local champions. If I mention them to you, you know them already. Professor Morenik Opong, she's number 1 in OAU here when it has to do with high impact citations. She's number 1. We have a good number of them as well. We have them in sciences. We have them in tech here. I know of one Dr. Lasukami in chemistry. I also witnessed a what do we call it now? An inaugural lecture yesterday. The professors that presented the inaugural lecture, Professor what's his name again? Yes, I have the inaugural lecture before me. No, this is not it. Yes, I have it. 2 seconds, please. Professor Adekunle Oyekunle, yes. Professor Oyekunle said he has published over 130 articles. And this is what we're talking about. We also have a faculty of tech here as well. I'm sorry, I don't know so many people in faculty of law and other humanities. I'm sorry, I don't know them. Yes, we also have Professor Shonibare here in the faculty of tech. And Professor Taiwo, Kennedy Taiwo. These people, they are published. High impact index. Professor Aderomo as well, who is our current DVC academics. Go and check their impact. You will see that they're up there. So if you want to become the Shonibare, the Aderomo, the Olasukami, and all of that, the Morenik of tomorrow, you have to start from now. And it's very, very important. You can see what Professor Aderomo has done in this university regarding the grants he has brought into this place. He has won over $20 million research into this university. Quite over that. I'm not talking about 20 million naira. $20 million. I think it's running into billions, apparently. I don't have the figure readily now. I think it's running into billions. And we have all seen the effect. All of that is not just by word of mouth. It was as a result of the quality publications it was doling out. And he started going into those research grants. After applying for the first research grant, they profiled him and they met it there. So this is what we're talking about here as well. Now, but for us in this part of the world, you can see that our other sister African countries, they're already using this mixed method very well. They have this quality method very well. But for us in this way, I know. I've been here for a few years. We usually work on quantitative. We only have few experts on qualitative. And most of our researches, we don't also bring in mixed method. And I think we can improve on that. We can improve on that. And I'm trying to whet your appetite to begin to see what you can do to bring in all of this. Because it may be rigorous now, but the benefit is coming. It's not far away. You will still make the benefit and see the benefit. So all the nitty-gritty of how to get all of these things done, we are going to do it in this URM 902. In this cluster, before the end of this class, we have about 10 weeks of lecture. This is the second one. We still have about 8 more. So we'll be good to go. Okay, that's fine. I move on. So we have synergy in research, the power of the integration. Like I said, the quantitative deals with numbers, patterns, and statistical significance. It is when what you have done, when what you have postulated is significant, that is when you can reckon with it. What am I saying? It is when you have postulated some variables, or you have postulated some hypotheses. And when you find out after you have used variables to check those postulations that they are positive or they are significant. If they are not significant, you don't have to reckon with them. If something has happened, or maybe I'm having a headache, although it's mild, it's not significant, I may not have to bother to take drugs. I mean, just say, let me just go to bed and rest for 1 hour and I'll be fine. But when the thing is severe, when it is high, when it is significant, you want to take action. So when the quantitative analysis is significant, you want to point the eye of the policymakers to those factors, to those variables that are significant. Maybe you want to advise them, if it is positive significance, you want to advise them to continue to do more. They have been doing something, but if they continue to do more, there's a likelihood that you get better results, improved results. But if it is negative, if the significance of that variable is negative, if it's going in the negative direction, yes, you also want to point the attention to it. That yes, this variable is saying that is militating the progress of that concept. Now, there's a need for you to pay attention to ensure that we are not having difficulties. So that way, whatever is constituting the negativity, whatever is constituting things that are not making that thing to move on well as expected, then you call the attention of the policymakers to do the needful so that it can be better. So same goes for qualitative. Like I said, it is all about stories. Finding meanings to stories. After you have done contextual depths about what you have gathered from your respondents or from the observations. You put these stories together, There are techniques. It's not just by word of mouth. Normally, if you want to do it manually, you have to be reading those things and be bringing out one by one what we call latent variables. Okay, what I mean by latent variables is, or maybe bringing in some names, some characteristics, some factors that you are likely to have read in that story. When I say story, I mean in the interview that you have conducted with different respondents. After taking one of the responses of the first respondent, for example, and you are reading the story, by the time you get back. As you are reading it, you say, that's about finance. As you are reading, you notice that what this person is talking about finance. Maybe finance has been limiting me from participating in women association, or finance me or school, or I'm limited because I lost my husband, and I do not see anybody to sponsor me to go to school. What that person is talking about is about finance. So you can bring in finance as a factor. Then when you pick another one, you pick the same one as well. As you are reading it, this person is also talking about that. Okay, if this person can narrate this story this way, it means something must have. It is somebody who is educated. It is somebody who has participated in maybe seminars that can be talking or describing these things the way this person is describing it. So that one, another factor can come out and say educational background. So as you pick another one as well again, that we already have two, is that not? We have the first one as finance, we have another one as maybe like educational background. Or as you are reading another one, you pick another one as you are reading it, and you are looking at, okay, from the literature I've read, things along this thing is likely to have been influenced by family background. Maybe saying that this business, I made this business at home. I did not just become a billionaire. I was not the one that started this business. I mean, my great-grandfather has been doing that business. I learned it from home. As we are reading another one, somebody is also relating that business. This business, I did not get it. It was when I went to live with my uncle. And when I asked my uncle, why did you get the knowledge about this particular business? He now said that it was their grandfather that used to do the business. You also know that is also relating to family background, or family business rather. That will now dovetail into bringing out another cluster or another factor. You note that as well. So, but the nitty-gritty of all of that is not the business of now. Like I said, somebody's going to come to tell us the nitty-gritty of quality, but that's just an element of what qualitative research is all about. Then the mixed method will integrate the two approaches, that will lead into triangulated findings. And when we say triangulation, what do we mean? This is what we're going to be looking at now. What is triangulation? Triangulation is the practice of using multiple data sources, methods, theories, or investigators to study a single phenomenon. You are bringing in qualitative approach, you are bringing in quantitative approach, but not just that alone. Even from your quantitative approach, you want to bring in information from the mixed method, you want to bring in information or data from different sources. You want to gather secondary source of information, secondary data. You also want to gather primary data, you go to the field and bring in primary data. Then at the same time, you also want to conduct interview to also gather another information from the interview. So that's bringing multiple methods, multiple sources of data collection into a study. And then also bringing in theories, bringing in application of many theories. All of this bringing together is what is referred to as triangulation in research. So the ultimate goal of doing all of this is to be able to enhance the validity of the research. Not just the validity, even the credibility of the same. Then to be able to beat your chest and say, I can tell you that whatever findings we have reported here, it is trustworthy. It is you can't beat it anywhere. To be able to say that, this research rather, or the findings here is genuine. Because at the end of the day, when you're carrying out research, you don't want to guess. You want to limit the errors as much as possible. It's like when you're calculating mean, for example, in quantitative study. And you say your mean is 25 plus or minus 20. The mean is 25, the variation is 20. No. The standard deviation is 20. 25 plus or minus 20. You don't want to do that because that gap is too wide. You want to minimize the error. You want to minimize the variance. So, but in a situation whereby you have a mean of 25 plus or minus 1, that's great. It means that if you're looking at the range is not going to be more than between 24, that's minus 1, and plus 1 to the mean. Plus 1 to the mean is 26. So that means that range you are considering is going to be between 24 and 26. If that means we are talking about is age, for example, and you have gathered the research, you have gathered people, you have talked to some people, and you have collected their data. And when you want to report, you are saying that you are reporting these results you have collected based on the age of the respondents. And the age of the respondents is between 24 and 26. That's fantastic. Now you saying, how do we get 24 to 26? Because the mean age is 25 plus or minus 1. The minus 1 is the 24 and the plus 1 is the 26. So meaning that the age range is not more than between 24 and 26. And then when you are reporting for that, the variance is not too high. But we are saying the age of the respondents here is between 25 plus or minus 20. That means you are going to remove 20 from 25. That's the starting point. That means you are reporting for age 5 and age 45. 45 is 25 plus 20. So if you are saying you are reporting from age 5 and 45, it's not the same now. 5-year-old is still a toddler. How can because 45-year-old is already taking high blood pressure drug. And a 5-year-old does not even know how to eat meat yet. Talk less of now having heart problem. So that would be too wide. So the essence of all of these things is to be able to present information as close as possible to correctness, as close as possible to one, as close as possible to perfection. It's like when you are predicting, you want to say that this drug can heal people with diabetes. And we can say that out of 1,000 people that will be treated, only we can beat our chest that it can treat 999 efficiently. Or this is COVID-19, what do we call it? Drug. That if this drug is administered to those who are infected with that virus, 99%, it can take care of 99%, it can save 99 lives out of 100. That's still fair enough. We are saying that it can only the reliance or the reliability or the validity or the credibility is only we can only vouch for just 60%. Which means when 100 persons take that drug, we can only guarantee that it can only save 60 lives. But the remaining 40 lives, we cannot vouch for them. You don't want to do that. So the essence of conducting all of this, putting all of things together, is to be as close to your results as possible. It's like when you also, let me give another example. When you want to also, when you want to postulate population. It's like when you want to postulate, formulate, or forecast a figure. You want to be as close as possible to that. So that is that. I've dealt with that. So the purpose behind the strategy, like I said, is to enhance credibility, to corroborate your findings from different approaches to increase confidence in the results. Because if you are presenting a result and your result is not reliable, nobody wants to replicate that. Anybody who is participating, who wants to use your results or your model, must have confidence to use the model. Because if you have a model, for example, and they have deployed that in an aeroplane to make an aeroplane to fly, they must have done the test severally to be sure that it can work almost 99.99999% before it is deployed. Because you don't want to enter an aeroplane that they are only telling you that we are not sure, we are about only 90% sure that this aeroplane will take off successfully. But the landing, we are not sure that if they tell you it can only land 9 out of 10 times, you want to say, I don't want to be involved. That you are not sure whether this will be the time that the plane will crash. The same goes for your research. If anybody wants to pick your PhD thesis, anybody coming from private firm, they want to buy into your results. The entrepreneurs, they want to make money. They want to be sure that what you have done there is correct. If the information is not correct, they don't want to run with that because they don't want to lose their money. They don't want to waste their investments. So that way, your research should be able to hand better credibility and then to be able to minimize bias in the reduction of errors, such that the interpretation will not be skewed. Where interpretation of any research is skewed, it is biased due to error, then the reliability is questionable. You don't want to do that. You want to, as much as possible, to eliminate errors as much as possible. You'll find that in quantitative research, for example, when you conduct quantitative research, some people are just coming in and they are just doing the attendance. I'm sorry, that attendance is not going to be reckoned with because you cannot join the class when you are just about 30 minutes to go. You have not attended the class. So I can take attendance anytime of the class from 12 to 2. I may decide to take attendance 10 minutes to 2 when some of you will have left. You may also decide to take attendance the first 5 minutes of the class. And that's what we have done today. We have taken the attendance the first 10 minutes of the class. And it's not going to be repeated. We're not going to repeat that. So you have to be on your toes as you are coming to class. It's only 2 hours in a week. The provost, the PG College have been magnanimous in us to allow you to listen to the class at your homes, at your offices, or wherever you find yourself. So thank you. Yes, I move on. Then to also have the other benefit is to be able to have deeper understanding to gain a holistic, nuanced view of complex social phenomena. Because if you have only used qualitative approach, that may not be enough. We may say because you only talk to like 15, 20 people, that because you have not talked to other people that may have different opinion. But if you have covered that with your quantitative, you say, yeah, of course, I've covered multiple people with my quantitative. And some people may also criticize that you have covered multiple people, that's true. But you didn't ask them serious questions. You didn't probe further into the questions because you are limited by your questionnaire. Oh, you say, oh, no, wait a minute now. I've also done corresponding qualitative analysis because I've picked a few of them and I've asked in-depth questions, by merging all of that together. Then another benefit of triangulation is to also validate findings by cross-checking your results to ensure consistency and balanced interpretation. Like I've said, it's also an opportunity for you to benchmark the findings of your qualitative research and the findings of your quantitative research to see how it goes. Now let's look at the 4 pillars of triangulation. We have data triangulation, using data from different times, spaces, or people. You can use data that you have collected over time. It's just like I saw somewhere somebody was presenting what do you call it? He was presenting the data for 2 days. To say that, oh, I have a data for 2 days for the transport business in OAU to talk about the situation. That is not enough. You only pick the data on Monday, or maybe you pick another data on Tuesday. What about Wednesday, Thursday, Friday? Friday that we're going to have Jumat at 1. And then Friday that is also weekend for students. Monday that, some of the students will also be coming from home. You also have so many things that may vary. So there's a need for you to also stagger your data collection. Especially what this is saying is data triangulation focuses on using data from different times. You won't say you want to generalize data for how to maybe planting of maize, and you have only collected data in November, about maybe November, December, to look at the rainfall. Because you already know that the rainfall period is not November, December, even though you may still have some drops, November, December, but that's not enough for you to generalize. You need to cover data in January. What happens in January? What is the flow in January? What is the flow in February? What is the situation in March? What is the situation in April? So that way you'll be able to put those resources together and to be able to speak to your data. Same goes for any other research you want to do. If you spread it over time, it's a plus. Especially for those people that later they'll be getting involved in large research grants. Most of the time, large research grants will span between 3 to 5 years, even 6 years some of the time. They give you the opportunity to collect your data and then reports. You have 5 years to work on that research. So in that case, you can have the opportunity to collect your research to spread it over 1 year. And some of the time, that's 1 year may not even be enough for you. You may have to go into the archive to see what has happened over the years. And that's when you need to talk about secondary data sets. The data that I've collected over maybe the last 10 years and the last 20 years. So that's why some of the time, current field data at times may not be what you need for your research. It could be that you have to leverage on secondary data that have existed somewhere in the database that you have to pay for. Or maybe the open ones in World Development Indicators, World Bank. That just go to World Bank and look for the, Look for indicators of interest and years of interest and download the data and analyze your work. So these are the possibilities that are available in research. The another benefit of that triangulation, another pillar is investigator triangulation. When multiple researchers collect and analyze data, when multiple researchers are involved. When multiple researchers are involved in gathering teams together, you don't bring somebody into a team if he doesn't have anything significant to contribute. You bring people into any team rather, based on their expertise, what they want to bring on the table. It's not because I'm a church meaning, he's a member of my religion, he's from our town. You don't bring sentiments into bringing your research teams together. No. I'm a Lumini, because this is what we do most of the time. When you do that, and you don't have, a scientific proof to say that, this is why we are bringing this person into this team, because ordinarily, if you're asking for any research grants, the strength of all the research teams must be stated. The contribution they are bringing to the table must be there. So triangulation will involve bringing multiple researchers with different skills, with different backgrounds. Today, we are talking about interdisciplinary research. Somebody from sociology can bring another person from English. There was a time that we needed to carry out a research. So I was going to pull out a research proposal. And I noticed I've been needing somebody from, somebody working on, what do we call it? Somebody working on an ethnographer. Yes, I needed an ethnographer to join on the research team. So I had to look for an ethnographer to be on that team. So there's some other things that also require other expertise of many people. I also remember also as well, there was a time we needed somebody who is well versed from the beginning to the end in qualitative study, analysis and all of that. So we brought that person into that team as well. So you find that all of these things, they are necessary. So investigator triangulation is an aspect. Another one is theory triangulation. You have to apply very theoretical perspectives, bringing in technology acceptance model, bringing in so many theories that has to do with feminism and all of that into your work. Another one is methodological triangulation. It might include employing different methodologies. Like I've said, qualitative, quantitative, and mixed method. So all of this put together is what we refer to as the 4 pillars of triangulation. So the methodological triangulation that we're talking about is a combination of both quantitative and qualitative method to study the same question this time around, to ensure no single techniques or flaws dominate the findings. You are looking at the same question. It's also possible for you to do methodological triangulation by bringing in both qualitative and quantitative, answering different questions. That's also possible. That's also another diversity, which you can also do. So you can see that research is multifaceted. It depends on what you have defined. Whatever you have defined, that's why we say it is your work. It is you that will say, this is what I want to do based on what I have seen in literature. You have read this literature, you have read that literature, and you want to work on it. You want to decide, I prefer this method. Let me bring in what this person has done, and another author has also done. I'll bring them together in my own research, and then to enrich my research. So those are the things. Then data triangulation also, we have diverse sources, like I said, to bring in or to usher in strong evidence. Classic example include comparing interview transcripts, observation notes, and official documents to verify whether themes align across all the 3. When I say themes are some of the things I described the other time when I was talking about family background, when I was talking about the factors, family background, educational background, talking about finance, and all of that. Those are themes. Now, this is saying that when you compare interview transcripts, interview 1, interview 2, and all of that, and the observatory notes you have also noted, when you bring all of these things together to now see the synchronization among those documents regarding the available themes you have identified. Then extension research example include comparing perspectives from program participants, delivery staff, and community members to build a fuller picture of program impact. It's just like when you want to look at the impact of any program you have conducted, and you are asking questions from your respondents, maybe from the participants themselves, or from the staff that were involved in the delivery, or from the members of the community. Program maybe they brought something to a particular community and you want to know what has happened to that program. You want to know how people have benefited. Now, the people that benefited directly, you want to ask them, do you enjoy that we have what things like that? You want to hear from the community, you want to know from them. You also want to hear from the people that were involved in sinking the borehole. The people that were involved in bringing that to the community and all of that. So when you put all of these things together, this is what we refer to as triangulation. And the essence is to be able to to establish the fact. To establish the fact and be sure that what we are presenting are not just guesses. We don't want guesses. Policies have been handled by guesses in the past, by our leaders. And that's why we're still having these problems. And that's why from the educational institution like this, we need to reorganize that. We need to do it differently. If you have this understanding now, you never can tell. Among us, we are going to have senators tomorrow, we are going to have governors tomorrow, we are going to have presidents among us tomorrow. So but once we have this understanding, we're able to bring in these concepts into reality when we are getting into where it is needed in practice. Apart from even writing your thesis, even though this is going to guide you to write your thesis, but at the end of the day, it's going to facilitate the way you also carry out your leadership. I understand, I think I read somewhere or I heard that Professor Dibu Ojerinde, when he was called to be the JAMB registrar at that point, it was based on, I think, his master's or PhD thesis that he wrote. They got all of the information they needed. They were looking at the CV as, he has written, this is the person we need. He has worked in that area. That's fine. If he already has an idea and he has dealt with it, then he will do better. And if you look at what has happened, you will agree with me that he has laid correct foundation for JAMB that other registrars are building on today. So these are some of the things we're talking about. So if you also carry out your research well during this your PhD, there's a likelihood that you're going to do this community, you're going to do this country, you're going to do the global world good in the near future. So investigative and theory triangulation involves a research team with diverse backgrounds, like I've said, with independent data collection. Then you compare all of that together. We also have the same for the theories. Examining a phenomenon through multiple theoretical frameworks. Like I said, the feminist lens alongside the Marxist lens and all of that. Then we also have triangulation in action. Just give an example. Looking at lab experiments, looking at surveys, conducting surveys, and then conducting scientific research as well. Scans and all of that. Bringing all of these things together can also facilitate and cooperate in improved research findings. Then, like I said, it is not always about agreement. What I mean is, it is not always about your research findings in quantitative output that it should be the same. Triangulation does not require perfect consistency across all sources and methods. Inconsistency are not failures, like I said. They're not failures. There may be opportunities. And that's why you must not doctor your output. You must not doctor your research. I remember years back, when students are conducting research, they will say, some lecturers, when I say lecturers, I mean undergraduate supervision. They will say, no, this is not the result we used to get. Go and do it and ensure that it's in line. No, you don't have to doctor your research. Whatever you have found out, if you have done it correctly, if you have done it sincerely, is the result. That may be telling another story other than what we used to know. And that is findings. That is why, because what has happened in the past may not be what is happening now. Things may have changed, maybe because of the advent of the internet. In the last 20 years, there was no internet. The internet is not, the proliferation of the internet is not as what we have today. Today, if anybody sneezes here, the next thing you are going to see in the next 2 weeks, you find it on the internet. Obviously, I was looking at the video of a lecturer who was trying to victimize another student. Yes, you are going to do this for marks. I was like, this is not possible. And that's social media. I saw it on social media. The face was there. It's only the student's face that was not there. But in the last 20, 30 years, it's only between you and whoever is the victim in that room. But today is a different problem because we now have cameras that can capture you. And once it is captured, it's going to social media. Social media has no guide. Somebody in the United States will see what is happening in Nigeria here. Somebody in Japan will also see what is happening in Taiwan. And so on and so forth. So things may have changed. The culture may even be the influence. The environment may also be part of what is bringing the change. Location may also impact that. So whatever you have to make do with it and don't doctor your researches. So discrepancies, like I said, can reveal deeper layers of meaning hiding within the data, which others that have conducted research before you may not have seen. So this may be what you're going to be talking about all your life. That people will be consulting you for we noticed that you found out this. Please, can you come and give us a lecture in Rwanda? Please, can you come to the United States and tell us about what you find in your local environment in Nigeria, in Yoforogi, where you have conducted the research? Who are the people living there? Are the people living on the tree? Are they living under the sea? Are they living in huts and all of that? Come and tell us what has happened. You'll be getting invitations from different places to come and tell your stories. And if you imagine that you have doctored that thing, you may not have that opportunity. You may not have that opportunity. That's what you have to do. We conducted research here on our research that we just concluded just this March this year. That research has taken research. The whole research has taken a good number of us on that team out of this country severally. People have gone to Kenya, some have gone to United. I was in where now? I was in on that research. I was invited because you not just be invited. I was invited based on the paper that we submitted, and it was very topical. I was invited to where is this country now? This Schengen country. It was this Schengen country. I can't remember. If I remember, I'll let you know. So, based on that, our findings, I was invited to present it there. Another colleague was also invited to different places to present different aspects of those findings. Why? Because we have conducted the research and we have presented the research outputs where it is needed. So, like I was saying, now conflicting findings as well can invite researchers to explore complexity rather than suppress it. Then the goal is to acknowledge and interrogate discrepancies, not force a single interpretation. Like I said, you don't have to force interpretation. Then you also have to strengthen your research. A balanced view of triangulation can assist you to strengthen your research as a research strategy. Some of the advantages. It will bring in or usher in increased validity and credibility. Yes, now the World Bank can count on your research. Now the UNESCO can count on your research. Now the World Health Organization can refer to you that yes, this person can represent us in Nigeria. He has conducted research severally, and I think he can be our ambassador to represent Nigeria. These are some of the things that can come. All of those people that you see that have been employed today, invited for employment, it is not just on a platter of gold. It's because of what they have done previously. They won't just bring anybody who does not have give any international job or appointment or anybody who does not have that experience, who has not done something previously. If you're not there now, just trust me. Don't worry. Just give it to me. Although I've not done it before, but I can do it. Nobody will believe you. They want to see what you have done previously. We can't just give you $1 million contract without saying what you have done with 100,000 before. So it's just like what the Bible says as well. If you have not done well with little that has been given to you, how do you want me to do some more? Somebody was given 1 talent, another one was given 2 talents, another one was given 5 talents. The one with 1 talent go and eat it. The one with 2 talents traded with it and made some profits. The one with 5 talents also traded with it and made huge profits. But the one with 1 talent say, I don't want to risk it because I only have 1 talent. Even any peradventure, I should go into business and use that thing, and then you come back and I am telling you that I do not have the talent. You will beat me because the guy cannot take risk. So I can now, as a person, as an entrepreneur, commit more funds to that kind of a person than somebody who I would prefer somebody who has traded with 5 and has made some money. I was okay. Let me now double this, make it 10 for you. I can do that. So the same thing goes for people that will ask you or will commission you to carry out any research for them. And you know, the reason why we are saying this is because PhD is the last degree. If you have missed it on this last degree, I can tell you that you may have missed it for life. And that's why the university, that's why the postgraduate college is trying as much as possible to ensure that you are equipped with all the things you need to do. It is not the icing on the cake is just the PhD, is the title. But the nitty-gritty is you defining you correctly, making you into the mold that is needed. And that's why you see that we are bringing out all our energy to ensure that we get it right. So some considerations for the triangulation. Yes, even though it's sweet, it's fantastic, it's the way to go, but it will be time consuming and resource intensive. It will be time consuming and resource intensive. So you have to look at the time available to you. Will you still be able to cope with that? Do you have the resources to run with that? You have to ask those questions. Then it is also complex to design and to implement, because if you want to bring in qualitative analysis, you can't marry those data together and say, let me analyze them in one. No, you can't collect qualitative data and say you want to marry it directly with quantitative data. You marry them together before you analyze. No, you have to treat them separately in their orders, in the way they used to analyze them, because there are procedures for analysis of the quantitative design and procedure for analysis of qualitative design. We're going together. I think I'm going to mention before we close. Another consideration is it may surface conflicting data requiring careful interpretation. So these are some of the things. But key takeaways: triangulation is a powerful strategy for building stronger and more trustworthy research. The investment is well worth the rigor it provides. So if you think you have the resources, you have the time, go for it. Now let's look at the nuances, the challenges, and the considerations. Understanding the paradigm. Debate persists on the theoretical underpinnings of mixed methods, though it is increasingly accepted as a distinct and legitimate third research paradigm. Just like we have the qualitative or the quantitative as the first research paradigm, and the qualitative as the second research paradigm, this mixed method is seen as the third research paradigm. It may require that you bring in the corresponding theoretical underpinnings for the mixed method, which is very, very important. Then, students also, about the proficiency of the students. Do you have the proficiency? Some may say that they want to use qualitative approach, but we don't have the money for the license of NVivo, which is usually used, NVivo or Atlas, which is usually used for the analysis of qualitative study or qualitative data, which is true. And your university may not have also paid for the license. In developed countries and some other countries, especially I know of South Africa, University of Johannesburg that I'm affiliated with, and a number of other universities even in South Africa, they have paid for these licenses. But we are still limited in this part of Africa, in Nigeria, because we don't have enough funding. So the university may not have provided all of these tools for us, because most of our education is free. In those places that I talked about, they pay almost through their nose for their education. We are paying just few thousands of naira here. So it's be hard for the university to cover out $5,000, $10,000 to pay for one single software. So, but it's okay. We'll get there. But if you can afford it, or you have a project that can afford that, why not include it as part of the need for that project when you are doing the budget? Include it as part of the budget. Include a license for for Atlas, include license for NVivo as you are packaging the budgets. Most of the time, they will approve it. Just like they will approve budget for laptops to be used. As well, you can talk about software as well that you also need for analysis. But most of the time, the software needed for quantitative analysis, they're available. They're available. They're at our reach. SPSS, data, and all of that, and LP info. Fortunately, most of those software, even including the one I talked about, even for qualitative analysis, they usually support students by giving them student version. There are some versions that will not expire until you have used for about 14 days. So whatever analysis you want to do as well, you must have collated all your data together and start your analysis within 7, 10 days, 14 days, complete within those periods. So that way you will not have to be looking for licensed version. If you do that. But the only challenge will not be if you want to go back and revisit your data. It's possible. Then you may possibly, I'm not trying you a way to be sidetracking all of that, trying to teach you to be sidetracking, but it's also possible. So also open another account afresh, and you get another 14 days or 7 days, depending on that software. And then you can then bring in that your result, import it to that, and then you continue your analysis. So these are some of the ways out for some of us in this part of the world that we are less developed, that we are less privileged to have access to funding. So these are some of the things we can do. So bridging the gap, enhancing mixed methods, collaborative teaching, you have to integrate courses, build resources together, and apply all of that in practice. Like I said, you have to integrate both qualitative and quantitative method. and bring this as well among the students, and then request for institutional support by requesting for institutional support from your university, from your institution, and all of that. And even some of the time, a good number of us are working, we are alumni of the university. These are some of the things you can also contribute to the university. If during the course of your study you have suffered for this, why don't you bring your colleagues together and say, wait a minute, let us buy maybe 100 license at last year and pay for a 5-year license for OAU. And you give it to the university. They will applaud that, they will embrace it, and they will react. And that will be used for a good number of students for that period of time, even before the expiration. Before the expiration, somebody else may also assisted in pushing it for beyond that. That's why today you find out that the university library here, they are limited by the amount of subscriptions that they could go for, depending on articles you can download. You find out that when you want to download some articles, they'll be asking for $35 and all of that, $50, $20 to download one single article. And for your PhD, you need nothing less than 150 articles that you must consult, at least, to write up a PhD. So how do you then multiply $35 for one paper, multiply by 150? It's not feasible. It's not done. But if there is institutional support where you have access to all these databases, then the more the burden on the students. But the truth is, with the 100,000 naira we are paying as school fees, 200, I'm not speaking for the management, but I'm just being realistic. The 200,000 we are paying may not be sufficient to bring in all of the things that the students in this part of the world will need. You and I are the solutions. We can think through and see what we can do. I prefer some of the things that we can do as alumni to support your alma mater and see and build future for the upcoming students. So data analysis and methodological plurality. The field of data analysis in postgraduate education is very important and is increasingly leveraging these methods to generate robust, triangular findings that address complex, multidimensional, and research questions. So what this is telling us is, by the time you get to the aspect of your data analysis, you may not be able to do it alone. That skill that is also required, you may not have come with those skills. So that means at the point of you learning or going through your PhD, that is why it's the minimum is a 3-year program. The first year is usually used for your coursework, while the remaining 2 years is to write up your thesis. And writing up your thesis, you know what it entails. You also have to do what we refer to as data analysis. Data analysis must not be contracted. It is not a must. You can do that if you want to. But as somebody who wants to remain in academics or really want to have the nitty-gritty of research, you have to do it by yourself. So, and if you want to do it by yourself, the skills that is required, require skills, you have to learn it. Do you know PhD is like apprenticeship also? You want to learn fashion designing, you cannot learn it in 1 month, you cannot learn it in 2 months. You have to sign, what do we call it? Apprenticeship for about a year or 2 or 3. So it's the same thing you have signed. When you are given that, what do we call it? Your admission letter for PhD for 3 years, you have signed apprenticeship to learn the way of conducting research. And some of the things that will also require is to have analytical skills and to also know 1 or 2 analytical packages. SPSS is one of them. You can talk to somebody. You can go to YouTube and see the way it is done. You can talk to friends to teach you. And you can also self-taught. You can also be self-taught. All of these things are available. Thank God we have artificial intelligence. And ChatGPT can also teach you. As ChatGPT is teaching you, or any other AI, you can open your SPSS and let it be guiding you. How do I start? I've just loaded an SPSS package. Where do I start from? It will guide you what to do. You can also go to YouTube and say, who has used this particular tool before? Can you give me the complete, tutorial on how to get started with SPSS? And these are some of the things on my YouTube channel that I usually do for people. But put it there, most of our people will not go there to see it. I have a number of things on SPSS, how to use SPSS, how to use R. I also have there how to use R for qualitative study. And it's open. It's open source. It's free. How to use R rather than looking for license for NVivo or what do we call it? Or looking for license for Atlas. You can use R to do all of that, to do your analytical whatever, to do your qualitative analysis. So it is important for us to be ready to learn the reason why you are here. That's why when you are doing your PhD, you have to let go a number of things for that period. So as we are moving to a close, moving to the time that I'm going to allow you to ask questions, let's quickly see this. From data to discovery, the mixed methods advantage. Well, I think we have said that. You gather numerical and textual data simultaneously. You gather them together at the same time. Then apply statistical and interpretive analysis as you are carrying out your analysis. Then you have to integrate findings for deeper insight. Then you conclude by delivering impactful, well-rounded conclusions. That is the essence of that. So how do you then empower your research journey as some of the things I've talked about? Embrace plurality. What do we mean? What do we mean by that? To leverage the unique strengths of quantitative, qualitative, and mixed methods to match your research question. Your research question is the main thing, is the main question your research wants to answer. And then invest in training, your time and money to get yourself trained, to seek out courses. Do you know at some point, while I was on my PhD, I went to econometrics department of the Department of Economics to learn some few things about econometrics. I bought books about econometrics. So today, I can give you models that will impress you. So you can do that. You can borrow courses from other departments. You can learn. You can go to workshops. I attend a number of online workshops that are available for free. But most of our people just see some of those things, they will just gloss over it. I'm not interested. I think a number of times I also do that within this university. I give free lectures online that I think that could be useful to postgraduate students. But lo and behold, at the end of the day, you find that you won't find those students there. You will find them there. They'll be like, we don't, and all of the time, not most of the time, all of these things are not, they're not asking you to pay. It's free. But I think it's important for you to know that these are some of the things you have to get yourself involved within this journey of your PhD. So where design meets methods, research achieves greater depth, broader reach, and stronger academic influence. And this is where I am going to stop the class. And I'm going to use this opportunity to permit you to raise your questions, whether from the chat box or you want to raise up your hand, and then I will permit you to speak, to ask your questions. Thank you. Over to you.
Thank you for the rather intensive class. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Um, first, my first question is,
You are too close to your microphone.
oh, okay, sorry, sir.
Oh, yeah.
My first question is, or maybe a reminder. There was a conversation in 901
Okay.
that the college was going to help us have a conversation with the library so that the library will make available to us the resources that we can use, those that are paid for by the university, so that we don't keep doing the back and forth with, well, our university has not paid for it, even though we can access it.
Okay.
So I think maybe it hasn't been done yet, or we don't have it yet. That's one thing I wanted to remind you of, that it will greatly be of help for us, since we are still at the very, some of us are still at
That's fine. Yes, I
our
would.
research
I'll.
together.
Okay. Yes, I will. I will. If I did not remember, if you don't have a feedback before next class, or you can also put a reminder on our chat in Telegram, so that I can follow that up to know what we have. Maybe with the PG college or directly to the library. I know the person in charge in the library of the access, the electronic librarian. I can talk to her to make available some of those accesses that we have. I know we have access to JSTOR and a few others, so that you will know what to do and you will know what is available. That's fine. Thank you for that question. Yes.
Thank you. Oh,
You're
sorry.
welcome. You can lower your hand now.
Also, oh, okay.
Is that all the questions you want to ask?
There is one also
Okay.
concerning the mixed approaches. I have been seated in some, what's the word for it? Departmental seminars, that's the word.
Okay.
And I've seen some of our senior colleagues' ideas be rejected because they said it was too many ideas in just one work.
Don't seem to hear that.
How do For example, we had a senior colleague who has a theory for
Yes.
every objective in the research, and the idea was rejected vehemently by everyone that was, all our professors that were on seats. So, for those of us who are toying with more than one theory, for example, for analysis, and with this class, you said we can check for things from several perspectives to be able to have a grounded worldview. How can that fly?
It depends on the supervisor you are working with. Some may reject it, maybe because they don't like such approach, or maybe some may not be aware of that approach. It depends on who you are working with. You still have to work along with whatever your supervisor would like to do. If you can persuade him or her, fine. Otherwise, you have to work with your supervisor. Do you get that? So that's what you have to do. Does that satisfy your curiosity? Dorcas Bakari, you can, okay. Okay, I think I have to ask you to unmute. 2 seconds. Are you okay?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, that's fine.
Yes, sir. Thank
That's fine. So next person, Shola Oyewo.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Prof, for the impactful lecture, sir. My question is on the mixed approach. In my department, we use qualitative approach, not quantitative. Of course, if anybody wants to use quantitative, the analysis will still be done through qualitative. If you administer questionnaire, you don't use statistics to report your finding. But in situation where you want to use mixed approach, how do we go about the analysis? How do we analyze the questionnaire in such department where your analysis will have to follow qualitative approach? That's my question, sir. Then, sir, I want to also plead. I've been in this class since the beginning. In fact, the time you mentioned the attendance, I was there when you were not happy with the number of people who were already in the class. But I've not been able to use my chat box to register my attendance. So those are my concerns.
Okay. So on the question, I think
Yes, sir.
it's not hard. You have to, like I said, you cannot merge the two data together. You have to do them separately. And there are procedures for quantitative analysis. You have to follow that. You put that by the side. There are sessions where you are going to report them separately in your work. You report the quantitative
Okay.
in a session, then you have your qualitative the section. Then there will be a section where you marry the two together and say, based on the findings in figure 2.1, kinika, somewhere, and then of the quantitative, and then the qualitative is also reporting this one. I think these two, there seems to be in tandem. They seem to work together. There seems to be a convergence or a divergence, depending on what you find out. So that is the way. That is the way. So
Okay.
that is the way. So, like I said, on the attendance, there's no going back. I don't know what you mean by you were on the sales, you were on the platform, you could hear
Yes,
me, but you
sir.
don't
From
know,
the end, but
and
I've
as
been
you don't
trying
know,
to. I wanted to even raise some of these questions on the chat box, but because I couldn't use it, that is why I brought it up.
is it that you don't know how to use it or
It's
it's not coming up on your system?
it's not. I've been trying to press on it. At least others are functioning. It will tell me loading and drop again without giving me the opportunity to accept.
Maybe your case is different. But then that cannot continue all the time. I may also check
Uh,
the timing
a
for.
colleague who has not responded, how he did his own. He is one of us and he's already on the platform as well. But he
Because
had not responded on his own. I'm just pleading that we consider
So
market.
because we cannot be pleading, and be considering it all the time. We have about 80 people that registered on the platform, and only 47 are on the platform. Now only about 50 people attended the class. It's not done. At the end of the day, they'll be saying that they came for the class, and then they gave them 38, they gave us 35, and kinika. This is the way you should assess this is the best way. This is what they used to do. They will not be teaching us how to follow the approach, because if they go back now and read the
Just
PowerPoint, if they read the PowerPoint, they cannot understand it the way I've explained it now. People that have listened to my explanation here, you grab it better. And then most of the time, even
yes.
after posting this one, that you should go and fall back on it and listen to it, they will not go there. So who do you blame? So that is that. The next person, please. Gumbote. You want to unmute
Good
yourself?
afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Yes, sir. Thanks for the impactful lecture today, sir.
You're welcome.
First and foremost, sir, excuse me, when we talk of hypothesis and theory,
Mm.
as an individual, you can postulate an hypothesis.
Yeah.
And in the course of this lecture today, you said upon significant positive of one's research, it make it to be valid. And at another time, you said consistency is not failure. If we match the two together, sir,
Mm.
how do an individual arrive to a theory? That's number one.
No. I
Number
don't
two,
get. I
sir.
don't get that question. No. I don't. Wait. Don't rush. I don't get that. Your first question.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. I said, how do we arrive at theory?
Hmm?
As an individual, you can postulate an hypothesis.
Because you are mixing things. So what you are saying is not hard enough. Theory is different from when you are talking about selecting your theory. It does not have anything to do with the method that you use. Or let me allow you to land again. Let me allow you to land
Thank
again.
you, sir. Thank you, sir. I said as an individual, you
Mm-hmm.
can postulate an hypothesis.
Yes.
And you said that once you have, how do you call it? I mentioned it just now. So you said, okay, once you have uh, um, positive validity of your hypothesis, that it could be relied upon. And at another time, you said consistency is not failure. Now, if we match,
You are mixing things up. You are turning it the lecture
okay, my
upside down.
question straight. My question straight.
Wait
Okay.
before you go on. You are mixing things up. I told you that you can set hypotheses. Your hypotheses are some statements that you make as you are going into your research. You have not gone to see the evidence. You have only postulated, oh, this thing is likely to be like this. So you leave it there. Now, you now come back to confirm whether to accept or reject those hypotheses, if and only if you have gone to the field and you meet it like that. Then your null hypothesis, your alternative hypothesis, you can then decide to reject or accept either of the two based on your findings on the field. Now, I now say that even when some of the time, what you do is to know whether there is significance on your variables. Is it that you do carry out your regression, for example, or ANOVA or anything whatsoever? If you carry out regression, for example, and you find out that that particular variable is less than 0.05, that is if you have adopted the 5% confidence interval for your work, and
Okay.
if you find out that that particular variable is significant, yes, you have to dwell on that variable in your report. Then
Okay.
the significance is one, the direction is another. The direction is either the factor can be positive, it can be influencing it, or it can be negative, militating whatever you are discussing. Do you get? So even though it's
Yes,
significant, it
sir.
can be negative, it can be significant and still be negative. It means that factor is negatively affecting what you are discussing. And if it's negatively affecting it and the rate at which it's affecting is significant, you have to give it attention. That is what I said. But as you are now mixing so many things together, it's not adding up. Do you get a better understanding of what
Thank you,
I've
sir.
described? Hmm?
Very well, sir. Very
Mhm.
well, sir.
So
Very
do you
well,
still
sir.
have other
Thank you,
questions?
sir. Then, yes, sir.
Last
I
one.
want to also, sir. No, not on that, sir. Or another thing, sir.
Just one more question for you,
I
and then the
joined
next
this
person.
class. Okay, sir. I joined this class. In fact, in the chat line, I was part of the people that answer how was speed is being measured. But unfortunately, I am attending this class for the first time. I'm not aware that I'm going to register. So it was when it was mentioned in the course of the course, in the course of the lecture, that I realized I am to register, and I quickly did. But when you now mention that the time within which we can register has passed, I want to passionately appeal,
Where is
sir,
the
that
information?
I joined the class.
Where did I put the information for the registration? Where did I put that? That the time has passed. Where
No,
did you?
when some people were mentioning that you said the registration has been made and you cannot go back at the beginning at the beginning of the section of this
That's
lecture,
not
sir.
correct. That's not me saying that. I didn't talk anything about it. I was talking about attendance. What I said was,
Attendance, sorry, sir. I mean attendance, sir. I mean attendance.
so what's your question about the attendance? What happened to it?
I said I joined early enough, but because I'm joining this class for the first time,
Mm.
I was not aware that I'm to register attendance. And I am buttressing the fact that the first question you
My brother.
asked
When I
in this
came online
interview,
this morning, I told you that what you have to do for the attendance. So if you have joined early by the time I said that, you understand what I said that you should do. So that you do not know what to do, it means you did not come within the time frame when I was taking the attendance. So if you were there between 12 and 12:10, you will know that I give them instruction on what to put on the chat box. So that is that. Thank you. Emmanuel. Emmanuel delay what? Yes. Your question, please. And that seems to be the last one. Or one other person is still raising up his hand. Unmute yourself. You have been permitted.
Okay. Thank you, sir. I want to appreciate you for all your efforts concerning this work, sir. May God reward you bountifully in return.
Amen.
I have two questions here. Number one, of all these three methods that you mentioned in this lecture today, which one is most appropriate for research in humanities, especially in languages? That's my first question.
That's a specific. Let me be answering you immediately. That's a specific question. Because you can't generalize that in humanities. There are 1,000,001 researches that anybody wants to conduct, which I do not know, which I may not predict now. But you that wants to conduct your research, we have told you the nitty-gritty, the step-by-step of how to know what method is appropriate. In last week's lecture, we talked about what do you call it now? Talked about the theories, how to identify the theories, how to know whether this one is tending towards qualitative, how to know whether this one is tending towards qualitative or quantitative. We also stated that. And which theories are in accordance with some of those things, we mentioned a few of them. So that is the way. Those are the procedures. Nobody can tell you straight jacket and say, oh, use this method, use qualitative, use quantitative. No, number one is your work. Then it's you and your supervisor that will know the in-depth of what you want to do, that will know the best and the appropriate method to be used for that particular research you want to carry out. That's fine.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Yeah. The second question is, please, can we have the material for these lectures?
Of course, I will drop
aside this PowerPoint that we have presented.
That's the PowerPoint. That's the one. The other lecture is what I have given. That's the essence. That is to guide you. There's no other thing you can get other than all the noise I've been making like this. It is for you to go and make notes by yourself. Do you get? You are looking for text. Somebody will give you text. I don't have text for you. All the text, all the things I've said in word, go and bring them together. So do you get that? So I'm going to give you PowerPoints and then go and make notes from all the PowerPoints and from all the discussions I've discussed with you. I remember in our secondary school days, even secondary school days, they used to ask us to go and make notes. So go and make your own notes from all my explanations and examples I've given you. It cannot be better than that. So, Lekon Kwale, thank you. Your question? Unmute yourself. Lekon Kwale, if you are there. Oh, okay. Your hand is down now. Okay. Okay. So nobody else. Thank you. I think we have to draw the curtain here because it's already past. It's already past 2. Thank you. This is where we have to stop. On the platform, I'm going to put the document there and you can have access to it. Thank you. Have a nice day. Next week is another time. We'll catch there. Enjoy yourself.